In the afterlife, you're treated to a generous opportunity. You can choose whatever you want to be in the next life.
Would you like to be a member of the opposite sex?
Born into royalty.
A philosopher with bottomless profundi.
A soldier facing triumphant battles. But perhaps you just returned here from a hard life. Perhaps you were tortured by the enormity of the decisions and responsibilities that surrounded you. And now, there's only one thing you yearn for. Simplicity. That's permissible. So for the next round, you choose to become a horse. You covet the bliss of that simple life. Afternoons of grazing in grassy fields, the handsome angles of your skeleton, and the prominence of your muscles. You announce your decision. Incantations are muttered, a wand is waved, and your body begins to metamorphose into a horse. Your muscles start to bulge. A mat of strong hair erupts to cover you like a comfortable blanket in winter. The thickening and lengthening of your neck immediately feels normal as it comes about. Your cardioid arteries grow in diameter. Your fingers bend hoofwards. And your knees stiffen, your hips strengthen, and meanwhile, as your skull lengthens into its new shape, your brain races in its changes. Your cortex retreats as your cerebellum grows. The homunculus melt man into horse. Neurons redirect, synapses unplug and replug on their way to equestrian patterns, and your dream of understanding what it's like to be a horse gallops toward you from the distance. Your concern about human affairs begins to slip away. Your cynicism about human behavior melts. And even your human way of thinking begins to drift away from you. Suddenly, for just a moment, you're aware of the problem you overlooked. The more you become a horse, the more you forget the original wish. You forget what it's like to be a human, wondering what it's like to be a horse. This moment of lucidity doesn't last long, but it serves as a punishment for your sins. A Promethean entrails-pecking moment, crouching half horse, half man, with the knowledge that you cannot appreciate the destination without knowing the starting point. You cannot revel in the simplicity unless you remember the alternatives. And that's not the worst of your revelation. You realize that the next time you return here with your thick horse brain, you won't have the capacity to ask to become a human again. You won't understand what a human is. Your choice to slide down the intelligence ladder is irreversible. And just before you lose your final human faculties, you painfully wonder, what magnificent extraterrestrial creature, enthralled with the idea of a simpler life, chose, in the last round, to become a human? Hi, how you doing today? My name is ChewD23. So that was Descent of Species in Some, 40 Tales of the Afterlife by David Eagleman. And it really was a short story that kind of sold me on this book. Not that I can find any proof behind that statement. What's really funny is that I don't really resonate with the story itself anymore. I find it very mean-spirited, and I don't really agree with the central conceit of the story. Humans are stupid until you realize that you yourself are a human, and because you have not experienced all humans, there are humans that view you as stupid. And that framing also seems to include concepts as stupid in order to stop yourself from achieving any real growth. Nah, man, English is stupid. I don't need to know that. I just need to know math. Trust me, I understand that way of thinking. I've had it for several years, but I just don't feel like it's worth it to think that way anymore. But that's not why I want to bring up this story today, because in a way, the story still does resonate with me. When I think of this story now, I don't really think about the words in of itself as much as I remember how they were said, because a teacher told it to me. His name was Mr. Bridell, and he was our Ancient Civs teacher. I remember just after he finished his story, his jaw literally dropped and his eyes started bulging. Because the story, especially to like a 16-year-old kid who did think people were stupid and did have a negative experience with them, it was jaw-dropping. And because of how he told that story, I bought the book. If he didn't expose it to me, I never would have experienced this. He passed away. a few years ago. It's kind of funny how my lasting memories of that man is tied up in a story about death. I can't help but wonder, of the many stories that are in here, which one did he experience, if any? Over the past few weeks, I've been posting a lot of videos talking about summer and the constructions around summer, and now that we're at the end of it, I can't help but take that same constructions towards school. Because at the end of summer is the beginning of school, right? Those ideas are intertwined together. I hated school growing up. School was the place to be shown all the areas in which I lacked skill. Not teaching me new ones, just where I lacked my skills. Haven't you been doing math stuff for the past 2 weeks? And isn't math the kind of schooliest school thing that ever schooled in the history of school? I understand if that's your experience, but that was never really mine. My experience with math was from Peter Rabbit and the Clue Finders and a whole bunch of educational video games growing up. And in that vein, I can't help but remember one of the great teachers in my life who understood that it's not about the facts, really. Life's not about getting skills solely for the monetary benefit you'll receive because of having these skills. Life is about itself, and culture and ideas are a large part of that. And you understood that. You never focus on the skills as a form of monetary enhancement. You focus on teaching us skills for their own reward. As though how do you frame ideas is almost just as powerful as the ideas themselves. That's why you showed us Airplane when Leslie Nielsen passed away. It's why you read us passages from this book. It's why you showed us Chariots of the Gods. Because culture matters just as much as facts. This stuff is important. Just like you were. Goodbye, Mr. Bradell. Rest in peace.